Alright, this is Weapon X Reacts, and we're back with another video, and this is gonna be a review of True Detective Season 1, and it is highly regarded as being one of the greatest seasons in any TV show. And to me, it deserves all the praise as this is an absolute masterpiece when it comes to its acting, directing, writing, and cinematography, which I will be talking about later on in this review. And this season is the main reason of what makes True Detective a great show. And I totally recommend you check it out, but I will warn you that this is a show that explores the dark side of human nature. And it will probably stick with you long after it's over. And I just want to let you know that this show took a massive drop in quality. And I thought the other seasons that came after didn't have the same emotional tone that made season 1 so special. And I thought the latest one, True Detective Night Country, was absolute dog shit. And personally, it was just boring. And it even tried to push the same woke bullshit that we see every single time in modern Hollywood. And it even wasted Jodie Foster, who is a great actress, and it's a really good example of what happens when a show that is so good and compelling gets turned into something that doesn't even know what it wants to be anymore. And it just shows you that we're not gonna get shows like True Detective Season 1, Breaking Bad, Peaky Blinders, or The Sopranos ever again. But still, if you want to watch the show, go with Season 1, because it is gonna be an experience you will never forget. And I am just gonna let you know that there will be spoilers in this review. And I will warn you that this show covers topics that are extremely disturbing. And now I'm gonna break down the plot of the show. So it follows two detectives, Marty and Rust, as they both investigate the murder of Dora Lang in 1995, and then they revisit the case in 2012. And one thing that's actually interesting about the show is how it goes into the personal struggles that these two characters deal with, which makes them extremely compelling, and it lets us see them as not just detectives, but flawed individuals who discover the haunting truth about evil as a whole. And it's one of the main reasons of why the writing is so good, because it feels like it was made by people who actually gave a shit about telling good stories instead of pushing woke nonsense down the audience's throat. Imagine that in modern Hollywood today. Also, I thought the chemistry between Marty and Rust was just something else, as they are both people with different worldviews, and it works perfectly. And you know, one thing that's actually interesting about the relationship between these two characters is that Woody Harrelson is an atheist, but he plays a Christian. And Matthew McConaughey is a Christian, but he plays an atheist. This is just another example of why their chemistry is so well written. Rust Cohle is one of the most complex characters in television history, and Matthew McConaughey's performance was absolutely amazing, and I really think that this has to be the best performance I have ever seen from him as an actor. And his character is a brilliant detective, but also a broken man with a very pessimistic view of society. And the reason for why he was like this is because of the death of his daughter. And it was basically a coping mechanism for him, but also it led him to be addicted to many things like drugs and alcohol. And this makes his journey as a character a tragic one. And his monologues throughout the show can be extremely thought provoking in a way. And the time is a flat circle quote is one of the main philosophies of German philosopher Friedrich Nietzsche, which immediately tells us who Rust is as a person. And one of the best things about Matthew McConaughey's performance is how he uses body language to describe his character. Like, whenever he smokes a cigarette, he doesn't exhale the smoke, but breathes it in. And his character even evolves throughout the show. Like how when we first see him in 1995, he is heavily affected by the loss of his daughter, and when it comes to crime scenes, he doesn't even make eye contact with other people, and while there are some times when he does, it all showcases his introverted personality. And when we get into 2002, he becomes a lot more sociable with people. Instead of relying on objects like how he did back then, almost like solving the case actually helped him grow as a detective. But it is also when it fully consumes him. When a man tells him that it is not over. And then in 2012, he is a lot more cynical than ever before. And that he decided to just give in to his addictions. But here, he is a lot more expressive about his feelings. And his eyes are wide open, but his grief is still there. Like, when he mentions his daughter, he pauses for a bit, showing that it will always come back to bite him. But he pushes through that pain, and in the end, he goes from a nihilistic detective who went through a lot of shit in his life into someone that is more hopeful and optimistic about the world now that he has solved the case. And he believes that he could actually be with his daughter again, and overall, Matthew McConaughey fucking carried the show with this performance. And he has truly made Rust into one of the most iconic characters in cinematic history. And you know what? He should have got an Emmy for this role because it was just that good. Woody Harrelson's performance as Marty was fantastic, and his character is just as compelling as Rust, but it's portrayed in a way that's a lot more simple, like how he is someone that struggles a lot with his family life. And what makes this worse is that throughout the show, he spends a lot of time with multiple women, which is the reason of why his relationship with his wife is all over the place. And his monologue about inattention is just powerful. And one thing that I actually liked about this is that Marty isn't as philosophical as Rust and always tells him to shut the fuck up. But here, we have a more deeper understanding to Marty's character. as his monologue hits so much harder when you realize that his struggles in life can actually apply to so many people in the real world too, and that scene made me realize how good Woody Harrelson is as an actor. And his character develops a lot throughout the show. Like how when we first see him, he has a short temper, but when we get to 2012, he has a lot more control of his emotions and is a lot more calm when around Rust. And Woody Harrelson does such an amazing job of showing this. And overall, this character is a flawed human being. And despite all that, he tries really hard to be a better man. For not just his family, but also for himself. And he truly makes season 1 what it is, a masterpiece. Also, the cinematography is something else, and I am actually going to be serious right now. This is some of the best cinematography ever put in a TV show. And what makes it work so well is how it uses natural lighting and color, which really makes the environment feel extremely atmospheric and almost post-apocalyptic in a way. And it also works perfectly with the show's themes of moral decay and humanity, and its story. And it gives the show a very gritty and naturalistic feel to it. And I have to give a lot of respect to Adam Markopol for his work here, as this is the best he has ever done. And I just want to let you know that this guy worked on Macbeth 2015, which stars Michael Fassbender, and it is one of the most visually stunning movies of all time. Also, this show's use of wide angle shots creates a sense of isolation, and it's just another example of why this season is so damn good. And the scene of where Rust has to break into a house is just amazing, and it is one of the best moments in this whole show. And the reason of why the scene is so good is that it is shot in one long take, which makes it even more intense than it already is. And I just want to let you know that this episode even got the award for Best Directing, and it shows. Michelle Monaghan absolutely killed it as Maggie Hart, and she is portrayed as being a woman that is both strong and vulnerable. Also, her marriage life with Marty is pretty stable and loving, but it changes a lot throughout the show in a bad way. And it gets even worse when she decides to go to Rust's apartment to have sex with him while he is heavily intoxicated. And then after that, she tells him that she did this to hurt Marty and end her relationship with him. And this scene made a big impact on Rust and Marty, causing them to fight each other, and by the end of the season, Maggie has finally moved on with her life and is now successful because of it. Overall, this character is very interesting, as she is someone that starts off as being caring to ending up as a woman that manipulated everyone, even her own husband. Errol Childress is a complete psychopath, and when we first see him in 1995, he is just a guy mowing the lawn at the school he was at. But later on, we realize that he is a member of Tuttle's cult, who were the ones responsible for the murder of Dora Lang and many others. But not just that, they did terrible things to young children in the show too. Like how they put blindfolds on them and tried to sexually assault them as part of their ritual. And we even get a scene of this, of where Marty looks at the television and he is confronted by it. And the reason for why he got the scars on his face was all because of him being abused as a child. And what makes his character even worse is that he killed people for the sake of his own enjoyment. And while he doesn't appear much throughout the show, the descriptions of him creates an image in our heads that are just absolutely terrifying. And when we get into his home life, it is just a mess. And he even has a relationship with his half-sister. And he even has his dead father tied up to a room while he speaks to him. And this right here is a great introduction to who Errol Childress is, as it shows that this is someone that is more than human, but a monster. And the crimes that he commits are even more disturbing when you think about it. And overall, this character is a perfect example of what evil truly looks like. And Glenn Flesher's performance was just fantastic, and he will remain as being one of the most terrifying villains of all time, despite having a short screen time. I'm going to explain the ending of the show. So, after killing the Yellow King and finally solving the case, Rust and Marty are seen at a hospital, trying to recover from their injuries after being stabbed. And later on, they sit outside of a parking lot, and then Rust talks about the time of when he was in a coma, and he says that he felt happiness, knowing that he could actually see his daughter and his father again. And the part of where he breaks down crying is some of the best acting I have ever seen from Matthew McConaughey. And then Marty gives Rust a pack of cigarettes, and then they both leave the hospital while talking about the concept of light versus dark. And then Rust says that once there was only dark. If you ask me, the light's winning. Showing that through his own experiences, he has become a lot more optimistic about the world he lives in. And that while the darkness is still out there, they were both able to stop Errol and his cult. Also, I want to talk about the vortex that Rust saw in his vision. Like how in one of his earlier monologues, he discussed infernal planes and portals to dimensions that allow someone to view life from above. And not just that, but in 1995, he saw a bird formation of the spiral and many other hallucinations. And while this show doesn't directly answer what that hallucination is, it could mean that Rust is seeing that dimension. A god-like entity or a dark abyss that is a representation of his nihilistic worldview. But seriously, it's Rust finally coming face to face with his own worldview and the fate of humanity. And it also explains the reason of why he felt like his daughter and his father were both waiting for him. And the final scene highlights the show's exploration of the nature of good versus evil. And Nick Pizzolatto said that the overarching theme of True Detective is that we are nothing but the stories we live and die by. So you better be careful what stories you tell yourself. And overall, this was a perfect ending to a show like this. And it shows how these characters have evolved throughout the show. Like how Rust has gone from a man who was heavily affected by the loss of his daughter to a person that has regained his sense of hope in humanity again. And Marty has been able to realize that him losing his wife and daughters was all his fault because he neglected their love and happiness, and in the end, they both find a sense of redemption in their lives, and it just makes this ending even better than it already is. Also, the soundtrack is just haunting, and it really fits the tone of the show. And I'm gonna show you an example of it right now, and can I just say something? The intro to the show is just amazing, and the music does a good job of showing it as it's actually a mix of country music, which perfectly shows what this show is about. And you know what I really like about the show is how it combines supernatural elements with themes of mystery. And dude, sorry about that. And dude, you know what's so good about the show? Is that it's actually up there with Breaking Bad. And I loved that show. And it's the same way with how I feel about True Detective Season 1. So yeah. Let's do this shit. This music is such a vibe. Dude, whoever decided to put this song in the intro deserves a lot of respect from me, as this really fits True Detective. Also, Kari Joji Fukunaga's directing of the show was really good, and I think the show right here is actually his best work. And can you actually believe that this is the guy that directed No Time to Die, starring Daniel Craig, which was absolute dog shit in my opinion. And in conclusion, this was a great season, and it is so much better than most shows made today. And do you know what's the biggest problem with modern TV shows is that they are disposable. And they care more about preaching woke ideologies instead of telling a good story. And that's what I got with this season. It was a story that challenges you, and it was more than just some crime drama, but a powerful study of who we are as a society. And yeah, that's my thoughts on the season, and let me know what you think about the show. And I really think that this show may have been influenced by David Fincher's Seven. I don't know. That's just what I think. Also, anyway, that's all I got for today. Go away now and always remember, strike back like a weapon against wokeness. And I just want to let you know that I'm gonna be reviewing The Hunt, which stars Mads Mikkelsen, and The Weeknd's new film, Hurry Up, tomorrow, which I thought was not a good film. It tries so hard to be artistic that it just comes off as pretentious. And I just want to let you know that The Weeknd also produced a show called The Idol, and it thinks it's like some big commentary on the music industry, but really it's just a stupid ass show with bad acting and bad writing. And I'm even gonna be doing a reaction to Marvel's new TV series, Ironheart. And that thing got ratioed on YouTube. And you know what? It deserves it because nobody wants this crap! Alright? Just give the people what they want, which is a good story. Something that's actually worth it instead of pushing your bullshit in there. And you know what? That does not go for just Disney. It goes for Marvel, too. And Hollywood as well. Also, yeah, see ya.